Hey everyone, welcome to the moon forecast. We have a full moon with a lunar eclipse coming up here on March 25th. It's happening in the sign of Libra and it's going to be some big shifting energy. I'm Kendall with the Bohemian Tarot Girl. Amy, give a shout out for yourself.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm an intuitive energy coach and moon circle leader at Wild Tree Awakening. And yeah, this moon energy that's coming in, this is going to be a huge pivotal turn for transformation. And we've been in the middle of this North Node, South Node energy, which is what rules the eclipses. They've been in the signs of Aries in the North Node and Libra in the South Node. And so that's just coming in and it's really creating an opportunity for some really significant transformation that's going to happen over the next 6 months or so. So let's get into this. We've got a lot to talk
Yeah.
about.
I know it's kind of this really exciting time. I am obviously a Libra and my rising is Taurus, and you're the opposite of me. So this is all about our energy here. So I'm excited to see the shift kind of coming in. And you mentioned that we are really sitting in the middle. This eclipse marks the middle of this eclipse sort of cycle that's happening with the Aries and Libra. And so with this, I really feel like this is a time where we're going to start seeing some of the work that we've been doing, that has kicked off in some of the other eclipses that we've experienced. And now we're going to start seeing some fruition. We're going to start seeing some shifts come about. And it's really interesting that we have this energy and it's really happening in that like early stages of Libra, that 5 degrees, that early shift point. And paired with the fact that we just stepped into Aries season and we stepped into, the beginning of the astrological new year, and it's that real starting point here. And I feel like it's really like kicking us off to go somewhere. How are you feeling about it?
So it's definitely birthing some new beginnings. And it's also because this is a full moon, it's also an opportunity where we're recognizing what cycles have ended, what we've kind of graduated from, what's no longer serving us, what we need to release before we can start really building the next chapter of things. So this moon is happening March 25th at 12 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, just depending on what time zone you're in. Go ahead and adjust that. And like you said, it is happening at 5 degrees. So what that means is that the moon is going to be at 5 degrees Libra. The sun is at 5 degrees of Aries. They are exact opposites on the chart and they have opposing energies. And so when I look at these eclipses, I tend to think not only are eclipses portals, it's a portal energy where something is really going to be fast tracked for transformations in some area in your life. And that is going to be kind of unique to your own chart. So if you want to look at where 5 degrees of Libra is in your chart, that can give you an idea of what house it is in, the themes that are coming up for you. You can also look at where 5 degrees Aries is, because with these eclipses being opposing in all of these, it's going to show you where in your life things are shifting at a rapid pace. Um, and we also have like these themes that go along with these signs. Like Aries is very independent, it's very action oriented. It's all about the self and what the self wants. So, with that North Node being in Aries, we're really looking at what parts of ourself have we maybe abandoned, what parts of ourself are ready to step into a higher level of awareness, perception, where are we elevating our lives, where are we becoming more of who we truly are. And then we have Libra, which is the South Node, which typically they say that's where you're leaving things behind. But I kind of have a different take on the accesses of these nodes, which I'll talk about in a bit. But Libra energy is all about collaboration and it's about relationships and partnerships and looking at all sides of a situation before taking action. It's really contemplative. It wants things to be balanced and fair, whereas energy is all about this is what I want and this is where I'm going. And it has more of a direct energy towards self evolution instead of partnership evolution. So there's a lot to kind of consider with all of this.
Yep. And you can really go back and you can look at, this experience, this cycle of these eclipses in your lifetime. And so if you look back to 2013 through 2015, and you kind of think about what happened over those years and look dead in the center and say what was really that transitioning point, that's going to give you a good idea about what might come up during this time, what to focus on. And you can look even further back, if you are older like us.
We are.
And you can look at those times back in 2004 to 2006, and then 1995 and 1997. So take a step back, think about what happened to you during that time, and really evaluate it. I think it's going to clue you in because you're going to see one, what is the theme that comes up? And then two, how did you grow during that time? If there was a specific theme that really kicked off and transitioned you into this new world, this new you, your new self, then look at that key point, right? That led to that transition. So,
Mhm. And there's probably a significant theme there around endings and beginnings of things.
yep,
And I was just, as you were talking about that, I was looking at those dates and thinking about significant things that happened for me during that time. And
you're supposed to do.
so my Libra is in my first house, which is about self, and then Aries is in my seventh house, which is about relationships. And during those times, it was really significant about me realizing what needs I had and how I had kind of been abandoning myself in relationships and then ending certain relationships and starting new relationships that were more in alignment. Not to say that those relationships, you know, lasted. But for the time being, that was an evolutionary process along those things. And it directly related to the houses that I was making those transits in. So pay attention to where those
Yeah.
signs are falling in your house and look at
And
what's
we
happening.
And we do have this tendency to assign things that happen to us that we stand back and look at as bad versus good. And it's really not that, right? Like you have to think about that experience that you had that you might categorize as something bad really led you down a path to get you where you are right now. And you have to be thankful that you are sitting in this position that you are now because you can see the forward momentum that you're going. And sometimes we have experiences that we're not like, oh, this kind of not our jam, it's not great. But really flipping that and thinking about in a positive fashion and seeing how it transitioned you into the life that you currently have. I'm very thankful where I am, and I've definitely experienced, you know, life issues that have led me down this path. And so have that grace with yourself to look back and not feel anxiety or hatred about a certain timeline or situation that you're kind of focusing in on. Really focus in on how you can make yourself what you want going forward. So,
It's a good point.
yeah.
There are definitely certain things that you can't gain an awareness of until you've experienced the duality of
Yeah.
being been on both sides of a situation. And I think that some people really forget that that's kind of really a significant part of being human and being here and living this life is we came here to experience all sides of things. So and there's, if you pay attention to like the cycles and patterns of things, you can see how you may be going through a similar cycle or experiencing a similar pattern, but you yourself have changed and you've evolved and grown and have a greater experience and wisdom from the things that you've experienced. And now you are able to kind of like go through that cycle and see it in a different way.
Mhm.
So even though it may feel like the same in some aspects, it's definitely not because you're not the same. You're going to be experiencing it completely different.
Exactly. I mean, we're all this progressive growth. And so just because something happened during a certain time frame doesn't mean it's going to happen again. You might be offered that, the wheel card might pop up and offer you some fate. But it's up to you to whether or not you choose to take it. And if you take it, then you can decide how you're, proceeding along with it. You don't have to have a negative experience again. You can go with the universal flow. And I really feel like that's a lot of the energy that's being brought up during this full moon. It's really asking you to connect with that higher self, your connection with source, your intuitive gifts, and really feel into what's being offered you and making sure you're making that right choice for yourself. Um, so you want to talk about transits now, Amy?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one more thing because I
Sure.
brought it up
Yeah,
at the beginning. I don't want to be like, she got through that whole thing and didn't cycle back to it, because I have tendency to do
do
that.
it.
But what I've noticed, so we started these North Node and South Node in Libra Aries um, in April of 2023. And so we've already been doing this a year, and it'll last through until the like close to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things that I've noticed when working with the nodes and the cycles of it, there are astrologers and people who will say, well, the South Node is kind of, where you came from and your karma, and that you've already experienced that. And now you have to lean towards the energies of the North Node, because that's what you are aspiring to be in, the direction that you're aspiring to move into. And I don't necessarily think it's the point to abandon the things that you've learned by experiencing the South Node. It's not like your karma is a bad thing, that you were bad in a past life and now you're experiencing having to work towards the other. What I really think the point of the nodes is that these are opposing energies, but it's to try and find a merging and a balancing of the two so that you are a more complete, fully functioning, fully aware person, and that you have both aspects of that. And so when we're looking at energies like this, where Aries is all about the self and your self growth and your self awareness and um, the direction that you want to move in, and then we have Libra, which is about others and about our relationships and how we relate to people, and whether we're maintaining some sort of balance in our life. Um, when you look at both sides of that, really, I think the merging of it is to figure out how you can be in partnership but maintain your own sense of self and your own integrity, and not lose or diminish who you are in order to please other people. So you really need both aspects of those to be complete and a healthy human. So now we can get into transits.
Mm, but you really do. I think that's a good point, like what you've made, is because the combination of the two is really reflected in ourself, right? We can't go anywhere without that past experience. And so it's like it's just part of our natural birthright is having both of those. And I totally agree. And you think about even, the difference in us being spiritual and physical beings, right? So we have the spiritual connection. That is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is our connection here on earth and what we're doing here and now. And so mixing those together, making us one whole being, it's kind of key. And so I'm with you. I'm just right. I was like, yes.
I'm glad that made sense, because sometimes I start
Made
talking
sense
and
to
I don't
me.
even know the words that are coming out until I realize it.
Totally made sense to me, and I liked it. Do you wanna talk about Venus first? Because I feel like Venus, the ruler
Mhm.
here,
Yeah, so
doing so much.
Venus is playing a really significant role in this, just because, I mean, there's lots of reasons it is, but one of the main reasons is that this is a Libra moon and Venus rules Libra. And so it's natural to kind of like have an emphasis on the planet that is ruling the sign that the moon is happening in. And so Venus is in Pisces right now. And we've talked about Pisces energy. If you listen to us, it's the 12th sign of the zodiac. It's very intuitive, it's very spiritual. It kind of exists on a higher plane of reality. It's not necessarily very grounded. And so Venus is kind of lending an aspect to what is the highest vision for what we want. It's about our values, what we aspire to be, and the kind of life that we really desire to have. Um, Venus, well, I mean, I'm very Venusian, so Venus is definitely like one of my favorite planets, but it's all the good things in life. You know, it's your money, it's your love, it's, what brings beauty to your life. So and it's creating some interesting aspects to Jupiter and Uranus, which are both
Mhm.
in Taurus. So, with it being in Taurus, that Venus is sextiling those, which means that there's like one sign in between, which of course is Aries.
Yep.
um, and a sextile is a really beneficial alignment. They're in good communication with each other, and they have a good energy and rapport between the two signs. So, yeah, it's, the Taurus energy is creating this grounding effect that is
Mhm.
happening. And it's also giving a little dose of reality
Yep.
to the Pisces aspect. And so it's really kind of having you look at, looking at what elements of your life are not aligning properly, or what relationships maybe aren't beneficial to where you're growing. Um, Kind of giving you some insight and awareness to what it is you really want. And then also having you look at, okay, is this really in line with what I value most?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what do you have on that?
I just what I kind of noted down was one, it's going to be extremely lucky for people. And, the focus in on here is really celebrating and starting new relationships. And you don't have to think about new relationships as in you just walk up and meet them. And I really think about it as a rebirth of a relationship. So you might have been friends with somebody for a long time, but there's a moment here that's being called in, especially if you guys are walking forward together into this time. And they're being asked to step forward, and you're being asked to step forward, and it's going to bring good luck to you, right? And it's going to kind of kick off a transition or this new experience in your relationship, right? And so it's going to change and evolve. And this is kind of that jumping off point for that relationship in your life. And I think it's really going to herald in some great changes for you. So just pay attention to some of the new people that you're being really called to meet during this time, as well as people who are in your life are stepping up and stepping into new positions in your life. And pay attention to those because I think they're going to be important players as we kind of
Oh,
move
definitely.
through.
All of this energy is really, I mean, I talked about like kind of like the letting go aspect, because I think sometimes you have to let go before you can really move forward into
Yeah.
what's good for you. Um, but you're exactly right. Like there are very significant people who could be coming into your life at this moment, that are going to elevate your life and create deeper connections, and they'll be much more aligned with the direction that you're moving into. Aligned partnerships right now is a really significant theme.
Yeah. And I do feel like that energy is going to continue through. I mean, I think to the solar eclipse we have coming up in April, you're going to see this build. But even through April, we're going to see it kind of continue. So just know that, um, this is kind of like just that catalyst point where it's kind of kicking off. So, and
Mhm.
then Venus conjuncting Saturn, for a lot of people can kind of dwell on the negative side of that one, where they're focused on the fears and they're focused on things that maybe they don't want to deal with coming up during that time. And to me, when I step back and look at it from this standpoint and this kind of lens of this moon and what's going on in other planets, it's really asking for balance in your life and really making sure that whatever you're doing, especially with this Venus energy, is that you're doing it with balance and making sure that you're weighing both sides. You're not overworking yourself and not enjoying things, and you're not enjoying too much things and overworking. And that can come into play even in your relationships that, are kind of this focus is you want to make sure that you're not in relationships that are all about giving, and you're also wanting to make sure that you're not in a relationship all about receiving. So making sure you're in balance and harmony with those people. and not being fearful of it. So
Saturn gets such a bad rap.
I know, I know,
Everyone looks at Saturn and they go, "Oh, geez, it's Saturn."
I know.
Because Saturn is very, um, it's kind of a taskmaster. It's got its rules and its order, and it keeps things kind of like rooted in reality, and symbolizes the natural laws of the universe. And it maintains and holds that energy too. And so when you have it coming up against a planet like Venus, which is all about the good stuff, and then you have this like planet coming in, Saturn, which is like a dose of real rooted reality,
Yeah.
like, it kind of feels like it can take the fun out of things. But on the other side of that, when you have it conjunct Venus, um, I really feel like it's also giving solid support to creating something long term and stable, um, which is what Saturn is really good at. Like, it's going to make sure that something is correct and that it is, um, rooted in such a solid way that it has, um, good foundation for whatever
Yeah.
is being created around it.
And it does have positive energy during this moon because of the Jupiter connection to Jupiter's sextiling it as well. So, it's bringing in that luck of Jupiter, that success. And so don't be don't be fearful during this time.
No, I mean, it's very possible that any relationships or work or anything that you are creating at this moment is going to have, um, a solid foundation to be long term and be super substantial and successful.
Yep, I'm with you there. What's the next one you want to talk about, Amy?
Oh boy. So we have the moon is trining Pluto,
Mm-hmm.
moon in Libra and Pluto in Aquarius, when they're both air signs. Um, and Pluto, of course, is transformation and kind of the underbelly of things and what's hidden. And so with the moon being trine Pluto, there's a likelihood for that it can illuminate certain aspects of yourself. It can bring an awareness to relationships that you might not have. It can really, something about this energy is going to make something known that you might not have known previously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Information, feelings, there's an awareness about it that could be coming to the surface that may have been kind of like hidden in the shadows previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, pay attention to the people in your life. And this doesn't have like a negative or a positive connotation to it. You might find things out about people that you really love, and you might find things out about people that you don't love. But the good thing about it is that you have the opportunity now that you have this awareness to make the decision if it's aligned with what you want and where you're going, and, um, kind of be able to make whatever changes are necessary. And so being able to, make sure that you are have proper boundaries around that, which is also a Libra thing. Libras tend to dismiss, like Libran energy has the potential to sometimes dismiss boundaries for the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
And so when something is being shown to you so clearly during this aspect, it's probably a good idea to pay attention to it and take it for exactly what it is. So
When I was looking at this, it was kind of funny what you said about relationships in our lives because one of the things that came down and I was like, okay, I'll write that down. Was struggles with your parents. And so just realize that there are other people in our lives, once again, that potentially are going to disclose some stuff to you that might seem upsetting, but it's not. It's part of the process. It's part of your process. And just know that, sometimes we're all growing and not to worry about it. So it's just part of it. Don't weigh yourself in, use your intuition. I mean, the good side of this energy is it does give you that connection to your higher self, that it does have that spiritual connection, that abilities so you can communicate a little bit clearer and receive messages. So make sure that you're just out there receiving the messages that need to come down. Um, don't throw yourself off balance. Make sure that you're focusing on, where your spirit really wants you to lead during this time. So,
And a trine like these two are having, it's a very positive aspect. So it's not
mhm.
saying that you're going to get information that's going to make you,
Yeah,
you know, be thrown off the rails in some way. It's just that you gain a greater awareness of yourself and about how you interact in your relationships, which gives you, you know, keys to creating better relationships and
yeah,
improving who you are in your relationships. Um, a lot of times we can have a blind spot with how we're showing up for other people. So this is just giving an opportunity to create better, better, healthier relationships with people.
exactly. Like if you looked at I mean, depending on who you are, right, and the experiences that you had, if you looked at your parents' relationship as kind of like, this is what I should achieve, and then, or not achieve, right? Then, if you come in and you start looking at it at a new lens, and then you start seeing the flip side to whatever it is, there might be pieces that you want to bring in. And so if you can broaden this idea and context to the rest of the things that you're kind of encountering and working through, is always making sure that you're seeing that duality in everything that you're kind
Mhm.
of weighing emotionally, and that way you're not manifesting something that you don't want to manifest in your life. So,
Yeah. And then the other aspect to this is that we have the sun, which is in Aries, is
yeah.
sextiling Pluto. So Pluto's kind of like hitting both of these signs in a certain way. And Sun sextiling Pluto really, because Pluto is about transformation, and Sun in Aries, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and um, I say this every time, but it's like that fool energy, from the tarot deck. It's kind of like leaping off and blazing a new trail and creating a new path for yourself. And so Pluto being about transformation, it's kind of like, how are you evolving, and um what direction are you moving into that is also now having this aspect that's going to lend a sense of like bravery and excitement and courage and self-reliance. um it's really, I kind of love it actually.
Yeah.
Because if you are creating something new in your life, or you're going off in a new direction, or you feel like you're stepping into unknown territory at this time, like this is just an aspect that's really giving you a sense of like, okay, you have what it takes and you have the courage to do it. And it's all going to kind of come together if you are if you are moving in a direction that is in alignment with who you are. And so kind of with this eclipse energy that we're looking at, as we were talking before, it's a good time to look at, are there people who are holding you back from the direction that you want to move into? Are there people who are creating doubt, who are telling you that you aren't capable? Those are the types of relationships that are going to probably go through some sort of ending,
Hmm.
because it is important right now to really trust in yourself and your own path and where you're going, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are supportive of that.
Exactly. I love that. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
Just some upcoming stuff.
Okay, yeah, do it.
Because before we have our next forecast, Mercury is going to go retrograde
Oh
in
yeah.
Aries
Oh yeah.
on April 1st.
We're in shadow now.
And actually, like Mercury going retrograde in this sign in particular can be somewhat of a gift. But when Mercury goes retrograde, there are things that we need to be aware of, because it does affect communication and technology and transportation. So take the time to kind of double check that you have the correct information, that your computers are backed up, that your car has maintenance, that you're giving yourself extra time to get from point A to point B when you're traveling. So those are just like some kind of like key things to be aware of with this. But Mercury in Aries tends to want to move really fast, and it wants to go like it it's lightning speed, because Aries already wants to move forward and wants to do so sometimes without thinking, and then you add Mercury and Aries to the mix of that, and it's like kind of oh, what do you call it? I had it written down. Impulsive. That's the word.
Oh yeah, that's a very good one.
It's very impulsive. And so with it going into retrograde, it's going to kind of slow that down a bit. And it's going to give you an opportunity to really pay attention to what you're doing before you do it, so that hopefully you don't get in over your head or get ahead of yourself, um, and have to backtrack later. So just pay attention to
It's a good.
information that's coming in, and contemplating it a bit before you act on it.
Yep, I like it. Also, you're going to do an online moon circle. Do you want to announce
So I have an online moon circle that
that?
is going um, to be on Sunday the 24th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll just be going over some of the energies and then doing some activities to kind of focus on um, how we can best utilize this energy for our benefit. It's more about going with the flow and aligning with things. So I hope that if you're interested, you can join. I will put the link details in so that you can
Yes.
register, because we're
Yes.
still working on setting that up as we record.
We'll put that down in the description for you, or you can find Amy at Wild Reawakening at Facebook. And so that information will be right there for you. So,
Yeah.
well, everyone, have a great full moon. We will see you next time for the new moon and the solar eclipse coming up on April 8th. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.